Let's put our hands together as we welcome the second. How many of you are enjoying it? Your clapping shows me what you did not enjoy. Please clap like people that enjoy it. Wow. Over to you, Brother Nick.
Yeah, we may take to our seats. Thank you so much. I was laughing the other time, not too long ago. We actually had a retreat with a church called CFCI in KZN. So the apostle there said, "Kuti, when you say to our African brothers, you can take your chairs." Pakazomboita disaster vamwe vakusumudza macheya vakuda kuenda. Right, so I think that English had to be changed. Kuti, you can take your chairs to, you can take to your seats. So we are very grateful and thank you so much once again, Saints, for coming back to the second and final session. This is going to be a bit very engaging and practical engagement. Our concern is always Kuti, the investments that we make, and especially with our time resource, they get to produce more results. I think Apostle James talks a lot about implementation, the power of implementation. But how will it help a person that they are going to go and look at themselves in the mirror, and then soon after that, then they forget what they look like? Vanhu vane simba in life are people who are able to put into practice the things that they've learned. Those people will see my results. So we are here to learn for implementation, so that when we go to our churches, suppose ndogona kurasikira kuchipinge, I must feel that is the greatest joy of anybody who is given an opportunity to teach. That if you get to people and you see the things that they were learning, they've been implemented, that's the greatest joy. So in the second session, I think probably we can start with the question atavunzwa. How many people should we have on the visitor's journey, right from the beginning, from the top of the funnel, probably starting with the greeters, my ushers, my MCs, and all the people that are involved in the visitor's journey. I'm going to respond to that question as we go into my 7 phases of the follow-up processes. Saka, we have a problem with follow-up because almost every time visitors do come to our churches, even the smallest church attracts at least 2 visitors every Sunday, which when we did our math, it told us that we should at least receive in a 6-hub service, at least 700 visitors every year, at least minimum. And then if we say 10% of those people stay with us, that's going to be about 70 new committed souls. And remember, the idea is not to just have numbers of people coming into the church, it's to have committed, dedicated, planted, excited, productive members of a local church. And that's a process. Whenever we talk about the Great Commission as a mandate, those that actually look at it from the science perspective can break down that mandate or that charge into some moving parts. Go ye therefore. So is the going happening? We start to audit from that instruction because Jesagati, you must go. So the question that asks us, are we going? Then he says you must address nations. Are we talking to the nations? If he says sit them down and teach them the things, are we sitting people and teaching them? At the end of the day, he says you should make disciples of all nations. The question is, are we very consciously aware of the different step-by-step processes that we must do so that no place at a time a disciple? Now, a service that is committed to building my disciples, that service is unstoppable, is very productive. The reason why sometimes it's very difficult to run our church service because it's a burden to us as pastors. Instead of them coming to help, they want to be carried. 5 years down the road, the only person a person can tell you is 5 years I've been in this church, but that 5 years is coming in entitlement. Only, not responsibility. If 5 years, kuda kumisa akashika nezuro kuti hauna zvaunotaurira. Tane makore tiri pano. But the idea is not the number of years you spent. The issue is, are you responding to the mandate? Now, the greatest asset that your service is going to have, I love speaking to services. I don't want to talk to the region. I want to talk to a service because our mandate is to build strong services. Because when you've got a strong service, you've got a very strong region. You might have a powerful vision at the top, but that power of that vision is given its life in a small unit, which is your service. Now, most of the time, the visions of the great generals died in the hands of unfaithful servants. People that are supposed to partner, but they don't do what they're supposed to be doing. Now, part of it says that we need to ensure that we have recruited as many workers as possible, but they have to be trained. That is why you're in ITPL, and that's why they also have to be deployed in the strategic, relevant places where they should be positioned. When we started off the engagement, we started off, I think there were a lot of things happening. I forgot to introduce my colleague that is with me. I'm not on my own. I've got my colleague who's sitting right there at the back. Brenda, can you please stand up so that they can see you? Right? She actually will be dealing with most of you. Some of you probably have spoken with her. Her life humbles me a lot from the perspective of commitment. She's a qualified chartered accountant, trained in England, worked at Eastgate, Queensgate School, Queen, Kings, whatever, in England, heart of London. She left what she was doing to work in the body of Christ. And we have always said that ministry is not for people that have failed at life. It's ministry is tough. You need the sharpest in the cockpit. And sometimes the sharp does not mean academic qualifications. It means wisdom and counsel from God. And commitment, through diligence, sitting down, being taught, practicing, and doing everything that you can. And when we look at the 7 follow-up phases that we're going to talk about, we are trying to solve a problem that we have as a church. That we have people who come into our services all the time. We've got people who give their life to Christ all the time, but we don't seem to see to understand what happens with them. And when we understand that science, it should tell us that we cannot therefore fail takata research to zatichiri kuitika. I want to look at these different follow-up processes or phases that produce my results. From this, you understand that follow-up is random. And it is 7 my phase that you want to talk about that is going to come out in my effective results. Let me look at phase number 1. I also want us, when we're doing this particular engagement, for us to, the reason why sometimes we always look at scientists as almost people that are nearer to God. Otherwise, Big Bang Theory and all that stuff. But there's something godly about them. They are interested in the results of things. Efficacy. Whenever they put a thing together, when they are taking their time to build a rocket, they take their time. They want to understand the systems, the processes, and everything else. And we believe that's the mind of God. They may not acknowledge him, but they have something in them that is saying, you know what? We need to ensure that when we're going to do this, we are going to get my results. If we become a church or a people that are not obsessed with my results, we would have the devil wasting our time. Church must not be something that we get used to. If things are not working, sometimes you go back to God and say, God, what you said we must go and preach, and you're going to add more to them. Why are we failing? What is the problem? And trust me, God never fails. If we are failing, it means that there's something that we're not doing right ourselves. So the ability to take charge and reflect and ensure that we get to look at those things would help us. So the first part, the first phase, and I want us to be able to, when we're doing this exercise, an example of one church, we want to probably look at which church am I going to use as an example? Again, I say church and you, Pastor Chiket. I'll use your church right as an example. I want us to do an assessment and evaluation. Publicly. I also want you to reflect on this on your own privately. And it. Tinema 7 phases, and they are going to be a litmus test. And not are we doing follow-up right or not? If results are not coming, what could be the problem? Chekutanga, the first important phase of follow-up, information collection. That's the first phase, information collection. Now, to collect information is really random. We need to be able to break it down into the different processes and steps. Tinofana kunge tine team responsible for collecting of information, and we have ushers and the master of service being responsible for information collection. Now, when we do that, the goal is to ensure that when you're collecting information from these people, they must collect information accurate and complete. How many of us have visitors cards? Can I see by raising hands? Can I see those that have got visitors cards in our services? Okay. How many don't have visitors cards in their services? Can I see? Truthfully speaking. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. To those that are, I think these ones are more important than the ones who have the visitors cards. It's easier to own up to victory than to a weakness, isn't it? Yeah, it takes honor to do that. Now, the accuracy and completeness is one thing that is very important. The tool that we use there to collect information in the first phase is visitors card. Now, when you don't have this process working well, we call it dead on arrival. It means there's no follow-up that's going to happen. Because this is the genesis of follow-up. Because to follow up a person, you must have their details. And we have broken it down to say who is supposed to be responsible for the collection of that information. Tinema problems are now, because of time, I won't be able to go into this. It's good to see you, Sister Stella. I'm always encouraged by your consistency and commitment. She was in Bulawayo, and we trained her in City 1. And she came to Harare. She never hid. She went ahead and started working, and she's here. She has never missed a training. And that commitment is amazing. Now, she reminds me as well of Dr. S. Nyati. I was talking to her when I passed through Bulawayo this time. You know what happened during the COVID when we started having meetings? Bishop S used to surprise me. She was in every meeting. And we started saying, why are you attending all the meetings? We are talking about the same thing that we were talking about last time. She gave me one answer. She says, she only responded now. She said, well, the reason why I was attending all those things is because I was fearful. I didn't understand what this was all about. I loved the idea, but I was fearful. So the best way for me to dispel fear is for me to get closer to something so that I understand it better. I can't understand it when I'm far. Now, when I talk about what you do, I've got no doubt, and that I can easily refer to what you're doing. It's a marksmanship of excellence. Our ability to break down these teams and say we've got ushers and masters of service. Most of our churches will struggle here because atina vanhu vari well trained and very committed and vane the spirit of being an usher. Like I told you, recruitment, sometimes even as pastors, we don't get involved in recruiting my ushers very, very serious. Tinongononga chero aripo. Unoona kuti chikero chacho chinokwira kana taakusarudza vamwe vanenge vari kumusoroko. Ndipo patinoti gatinyatsongorora kuti tinoda kunyatsosarudzana. You are actually leaving your very important room, which is the reception, with untrained people. Hakuna company inotora receptionist asina kutrainwa. Uyomisa pamberi pedesk inodzinga makastoma ese. Yes, kune ma-directors and ma-managers are kumusoro. They look important, but those people are not going to have anything to manage if the front office is terrible. If you're going to ask me, I'll tell you that is one of the most important. Hospitality, your greeters and your ushers, you need to be committed. The highest level of what you call strictness when it comes to selecting a person. Did God call you to do this? So when we don't take our time to invest, let's not be surprised by my results. We have people that don't pay attention to detail. They are short-tempered. They don't come to services on time. You know, they're ushers, but they feel like they are doing somebody a favor. When you serve in church, you are not doing anyone a favor. It's a privilege to serve in church. And you are playing a very critical role because a person's judgment, and remember, you are the first one with the first pulpit. Pulpit yema-ushers ayinakumira musha. How you preach when you greet a person. Love them, smile them. As much as we do training, it is physical. We understand that training is not very useful if a person is not really being held by the Holy Spirit. So we have that first analysis. So ndoda kuti timake that tikushandisa mfundisi Chiketa, we are using your church as I want you to score yourself out of 5. Score yourself out of 5. And all of us do that. He's going to take his marks down. Right. Do you have great ushers in your church? We are going to put all this together and do a score of 5. And my masters of service, are they well integrated? They understand that they are part of the hospitality. Masters of service. I think when we had our last training, we're talking about the challenge. My MC, honest, I 5 minutes to apologize. I know when there's go to phone MC, nasi. I'm not very ready. Saka. Yarukumberi. Kwevanhu vamuka makuseni vakaregera zvangada kuti vaite. Kuya kuchechi kuzoti mira pambi kuzoita munhu ari kudzidzira pamberi pavo. That's why you see kuti kuma weddings enyu hamungonhonge munhu ari mucrowd. Kuti ndiwe MC nhasi kuti chimbozama pa MC. Why do we then take chances in God's important service? MCs must be well trained. On a Sunday, it's your best foot forward. Kana uchidzidzira chingaiti muchita yeku cell group. Cell group unogona kumbopiwa umbunzi chimbotry chimbochikamushira vanhu tione kuti zvinofamba sei. You want your person who's polished, who's understanding what it means to receive a person who's coming to church for the first time. Even as much as the ushers and the MC and the greeters have done what they were doing, this is the first official place that a person is going to talk to a person to welcome them, and the person is going to feel that indeed I've arrived. And they also direct things like giving of visitors cards. Dzimwe nguva ma-visitors cards edu tinongondonyera vanhu makadzi. Havana kuzoti chicha tiri kukupai, tiri kukupirei kadhi ramuri kupai, ratiri kukupai iri, rongonzi sainai apa. Now we have a challenge. The problem is that you understand that unofonera munhu phone isingapinde. Wrong number. The issue is that a person does not know why you actually giving them a card. They are not excited about the process. People don't want to go to churches and start filling forms. Nobody likes filling a form anyway. Now, until I explain it to you, and I'm welcoming you very well, and say, we are very excited to have you in this church service today. You're a very special guest. You say, as part of our processes, we usually want to get in touch with you after the service because you have honored us. You left so many churches to come and fellowship with us. We honor that. For us to be able to get in touch with you, could you kindly please give us a few of your details? That person is expectant. They are going to get in touch with me. They are actually honoring me. And they will fill in the forms. So the question is, do we have well-trained master of services? And the completing of those, is that done accurately? Is the completeness? And what do we have as the quality of visitors card? Can you score yourself out of 5? Of all those things. And all of us, let's score ourselves as well. So that is follow-up phase number 1. In other words, follow-up is 1. It's a combination of things. Are we together? It's a combination of things. So once we fail to do this part, that's why we say it's dead on arrival. Because we have our wrong numbers. Are we together? So we need to get in. Phase number 2. We have what we call initial relationship building. Initial relationship building. There is a team that must be responsible for that. I'm glad Bishop liked this one. The Visitors Lounge. Most of us, we feel that a visitor's lounge is an expense. And if we had to cut out my expenses, the visitor's lounge would suffer. Because people say, you know what we needed to learn as Africans? We need to learn the difference between an expense and investment. Kune zvinhu zvatinopedzera mari kwazvichifika tiri kuinvesta iri expense. Kune zvinhu zvatinofanira kuziva kuti when I plant money here, it's an investment because I want to get more out of this. Now, we have the Visitors Lounge. It's responsible for building, initial relationship building. And the goal of a Visitors Lounge is to start answering my questions and getting more information from our visitors. Remember, when you are not intentional about getting a good Visitors Lounge, you are missing an opportunity to build a relationship in the moon. Do you know the reason why? How many people of us do phone calls, follow up my visitors here? Can I see you by raising your hands? How many people do my phone calls? I see you. I see you. Thank you. How tough is it to make a call? It's very difficult. Do you know what actually makes it even worse? It's because we did not do initial relationship building. Are we together? Zvinonetsa here kufonera amai. Kuti tovhunza tavhunza kuti zvinonetsa ndoti kubvunza kuti Pastor Mlilo, is it difficult? How difficult is it to call your mom? It's easy. Why is it easy to call your mom? You have a relationship. Most of my calls, follow up, are very ineffective because they sound like they're coming from a call center in India. Mwana chakatovunda ndiani unotombota 5 minutes udautsanangura kuti ndiani wangu kuharvest house kwamakabva musi yauya anotadambo yauchechi kwenji. You understand that? Kana ndoenda kumachechi akawandisa ndeipi yacho. Do you understand the problem? So building a relationship helps a person not to forget you. Kutongota, hi, you're speaking to William. Oh, come on, William, how are you doing? I'm okay. Do you understand that that's follow up? You're not selling anything. People hate being sold things. Follow up is not another dignified way of stalking and harassing people. Because sometimes some of the way that we follow up people as church people, it's a harassment. When we follow up, we are not recruiting. Are we together? When we follow up, we are extending the love of God beyond the four walls of the church. We are simply saying, we really enjoyed having you. We are thinking about you. We are praying for you. Because what attracts people to your church is your love for them. So some of their follow-up, when we don't do initial relationship. So in a Visitors Lounge, you are getting an opportunity to start asking my questions. Remember, a good visitor card must be very short. Ukaona visitor card rakuti unge birth certificate tatone dambudziko. Very short. Few things. We have what you call a system that you call get information through a relationship. There are times when it's very difficult to ask a person, are you married or you are single or are you divorced or are you a single mother? It might sound offensive. If first time to come to church. It feels intrusive. But there is a way that you can get information without asking for it. And people become open when you're building a relationship with them. There is information that I can never tell you on our first meeting. But when you start meeting, interacting, I can even volunteer some information. Eventually you realize, okay, he's married. Oh, probably he's got a daughter known as Runyararu. Because in our conversation, I'm talking about that. So you want to ensure that the Visitors Lounge is that place where you're able to start building that relationship. So that when a person walks out of the service, they have built a bond with the church. When you make the first phone call, it becomes very easy. And you want to always have a notebook, a place where you write things down when you're talking to people. understanding, but obviously you want to understand how to write. Hauzoti unge mutikiti vhakanenge achitaura uchinyora pasi achitaura ati ndakutorwa statement police station here. You understand that? You want to ensure that you've got a clever way of understanding. You take note of things. You take the notes. Unfortunately, because you didn't have enough time to put some of these things, that's why you see technology is very important. On Pulse, you have an opportunity to actually write. Do you know why it's important to write my notes? You actually are going to ensure that you're creating a system. The problem that we have sometimes in building formidable services is because, Pesraya one-man show. Iwe ndonoziva zvese zvevisita zviri musoro mako. Pampacho zvinoita unge utori Superman kana Spider-Man wokutoti uruko ma-information yese iri musoro mana kuti hanzi ndibvunze zvese ndoziya. Anogara pakati. It sounds very good. But you are not building, you are becoming in the very big danger. You are a risk to the church. Because muswa unokosora zvinoda tofana kuita flu. When you are not there, the church must function without you. That's why it's important to build systems. If I write notes, I must pass on to the next person who was not there. Takatara nemunhu anogara kusection yakati, but amuzigoripo ndakaona unge ndakataura zvekuti nezvekuti. When I pick up the phone, it sounds as if I was there. I know you. People don't want to deal with strangers. That's why phone calls are very difficult. So that's the initial relationship building. Do we have Pastor Chiketa, we are scoring ourselves. Do you have a visitors lounge? How good does it look like? Those are some of the things as well, isn't it? The designing of it. And do you have well-trained people who are in there, who are able to talk to people, sit down? Attention is divided. Arikumbotaura nevamwe vari panze apo, arikuda kuatenda visitor, atotakura bag akuda kutoenda. Then you say, how is this person going to do the work correctly? They're always in a rush. No, I need to, can we do it quickly to pay them? Obviously, you need to train people to Visitors Lounge because Visitors Lounge is not another mini service. So we tend not to do things correctly. Tinevari in a rush who are not paying attention to detail, who are not listening and being attentive. When you're talking to a person who's ticking boxes, we are not ticking my boxes. When you talk to a person who's genuinely in love, with listening to you, they want to understand who you are. Saints, if you don't start loving God's people, forget about growth. Genuine care and love and attention to people. It's not a preaching service ku Visitors Lounge. Vamwe vanotozopedzisira vanhu havachaendi kumba vakuparidzirwa futi. Unotoita pedzisira kuti undo zvataurwa naReverend panapa. Waane imwe service. It's not another mini service. We need to agree how many minutes do we spend in the Visitors Lounge. What do we talk about? What type of questions should we ask? Those things are very important. Number 3, information capture. Information yauya pa visitor card. Ipapa ndo pachasara vamwe vazhinji vane ma-visitors cards papa patava. Information capture. Chekutotanga ndechekuti vamwe vedu hatitomboverenga ma-visitors cards why? I'm telling you the truth before God. People just get the card filled in. Munakatika, there is a card that we assisted people to fill in, to do. Is Pastor Zingiso here? Oh, this is Pastor Zingiso. Wow, thank you so much. Excellent. Where is Mama? She didn't come. Thank you. You did your training very well. And you have a visitor card. That visitor card is in a danger. Yekuti, if you give a person a visitor card and they fill it in and you don't pay attention to it, you are worse than a person who did not give a visitor card. Because kana munhu paine slot yakanzi I need counseling. Then they don't get counseling. Yet they've actually said they want counseling. And you say, tell us what you want. And we'll do it. That's what it means when you give a person a visitor card. How can we help you? A person says, I need counseling. Then nobody counsels the person. They don't get a phone call, nothing. We're having a workshop in Ladysmith. And one of the apostles for Lighthouse said in that service that I was there, makhadhi akapera musi wanda ndiriko. mavhista akawanda auya kuchechi, mavhista cards ari kuda kupiwa vanhu zvonzi apera. Kwakuya imwe counter book yakavharuka vharuka ichibva kuona kuchinyorwa vanhu. Handi varipo vari kunyora vanhu ma-counter book handizvo? Right. There's nothing wrong with that, but you are going to lose the opportunity to collect important information. Then for the first time we said, can we go through the visitors cards together? Guess what? 7 out of the 10 people had ticked, I want to give my life to Christ. There are people who sometimes express that on paper. And they may never come here. I want you to test this and go and see what I'm talking about. Vamwanot, I want to know more about this church. There is whenever you see a visitor coming to your church, there is a reason why they're coming to you. You want to know why they are coming. So that when you engage with them, you have got a position to start, which is relevant to them. So information capturing is one of the things. Where do you keep this data? Vamwacho notozosangana nayo kuna Robert Mugabe uko riri visitor card randasaina muservice richitorwa nemhepo richienda in the street. We have one pastor who said we just burnt 400 cards. Angakagara office. Nobody was doing anything about them. So that's why we say we need to have systems, and they have to be. So that's why that's now where we see the importance of systems, of capturing data, and then ensuring that this data is also captured on a timely basis. There are rules around matruths that we've actually. Saints, I want you to understand this very carefully. I want us to understand this clearly. There are things that are nice to have things, but there are things that are not a nice to have. Your ability to engage Nema visitors is not a nice to have thing. And if you're going to be serious about solving that problem, that's why systems will be very important. Now, tinema timelines at no one's kuti if a person comes to a church, you need to capture their data. And that when we designed DiscipleSoft and the ecosystem of its tools, like when I follow up Nepal's, the moment you capture a visitor, they must receive a text message that says, thank you so much for coming through to our service. We really enjoyed having you. You customize the message so that it talks into what you want to say to that particular visitor. I have gone to churches where you find Guti will not receive a text message after 7 days. Pampachona grammar racho rinenge rakanyorwa papo rinenge rakatyoka. Zvangoitwa munhu achifungidza kuti ari kumhanya ari kuenda somewhere. I want you to understand one thing about the church. Our commitment does not lower the standards of God in terms of what He expects from us. Saints, God will never lower His standards to meet us. If we want to please Him, we must up our standards so that we can be able to meet His standards. He is a God of excellence. Now, research will tell you that if you are going to send a visitor a message within 24 hours of them coming to church, a research was done by this research company, but the name is running away from me. When you contact a visitor within 24 hours, there are 85% chances that they will come back to your service. Within 24 hours. If you prolong it to 72 hours, the first contact, the chances will drop to 60%. If your first contact with them is in 7 days, it goes to 15%. Do you know why we need visitors to come back to the second and third service? It's because only 10% of most of the time first-time visitors make a commitment to become part of your church family in the first visit. Only 10% makes the decision the first time I think I want to be a member of this church. The rest of them, they may give their life, but they want to know you better. People date churches. Zvasiyana ne inonzi chiko pana vanoona series or inonzi Married at First Sight. Anybody ever watched it? Thank you. I know a young person would have watched that. Right. Kune show inonzi Married at First Sight. You go and meet your bride per altar on the day. That day. It's a social experiment. And very few of them make it. Ndosaka uchiti ukamboti pane zvandikufunga nefuture nemunhu anoboti alright ndakateerera zvekumbonzwa ega ndimbononamata. Anenge achinamata asi pamwe pacho anenge achinyatsoongororwa futi. Handizvo. because the person needs to know what they're committing themselves to. It's not an easy decision for a person to make a church decision. So they will take their time. That's why it's important for them to come the second time, the third time. Ukaona visa yauya the third, fourth time, you are doing something right. Are we scoring ourselves? So out of 5, do we have a data capturing team? Where do we keep the information? How timely are we to respond to these things and the accuracy of our engagement now? And then remember, when you're talking about accuracy, apportionment, who are you giving the responsibility to follow up? And we have to look at these things to notice a number of parameters. Number 1, to notice demographics. Munhu ari kubva kucheritombo kana kuri kumarondera. Saka ndina anogara kucheritombo. Saka ndiyo tinogona kumupa kuti amute follow up. Number 2, tinogona kutarisa what you call the demographic. Age group. Yacho yakamira sei. Tikutarisa nezvenyaya psychographics as well. Professionally, how are things happening? I think we are going to do another exercise, very practically so, that is going to talk about how to connect people. Saka, remember, this is not only about saying ningi follow up ningi tambopa example. Yeah, brother Craig na sister. Sorry, I will call you sister, even if you're married. I'm brother William. Brother isn't brother, but not brother, but brother. Right. So that's how it works. So it's information capture. How do we, if your information is nowhere, apana system kana spreadsheet aripo, pane counter book rinomboshayikwa. Kuti riri kupi? Mzadzi rakarirapo takarisiya apa next week, last week, and so forth. Right. Yeah, it's a problem. And number 4, assignment. When we are doing the assignment, I have already spoken into this when I spoke about the issue of the data capturing team. We are simply saying, kunofana tota team yavana apply their mind to say, we have got so many visitors, who are we going to give? It's not a random thing. We need to think carefully about why are we asking Brother Craig to follow up on a particular visitor. And the tools that we have designed there will be disciples. So that's why we designed these tools. Kuti kana tichi capture a visitor. Ngaende mu database. Rekuti kana kango capture visitor, muchi capture assign a person. And remember what's going to be important is problem yatinayo mu church ndeyekuti atisi accountable. Are we together, saints? We are not accountable. Buda nevadikani mubvunze zvaifanira kuita akasazviita. Akakurumidza kuapologize ukaramba uchitaura nyaya yanoti but ndaapologize one amene kuti chimwe chama chakuda munhu waMwari chi. You understand that? In the corporate environment, it doesn't work like that. If you are given a responsibility, you must account for it. So we have that challenge. There is no accountability. So when we say, Brother Craig, these are your visitors, you need to go to a system where you say, can you give me a record of all the visitors that have been given to Brother Craig? List. How many of those people have become members of the church? Yokupa list. It does not matter that faithful and not faithful in the task that they've been given. As pastors, as ministers, challenge we are let down by the people that you give a task, but part of it is because atina follow-up system. As much as you are following up on this visitor, I must also follow up on the person who's doing follow-up. So it's important that the tools help you to do. That's why you find at the end of the day, you should be able to produce a report that says, we have so many visitors. As a matter of fact, if you are doing things correctly, we should have a meeting for visitors. You can go discuss some visitors. Are we receiving enough? What's the age range? Because remember, visitor card by reason of visiting. Most of our visitors are visiting because they need their card. That helps you in praying for that area. It helps you to understand how to go and fish. If you want to catch a fish, understand behavior. What is happening there? So I want us to score ourselves. Where do we keep this data? When we assign him a responsibility, do we have parameters, geography, demographics, and all that stuff that we get to do? Do we have an electronic tool? It might not be DiscipleSoft. It doesn't have to be DiscipleSoft. Saints, let me tell you something very strongly. I was saying this to one of the church leaders. I said to them, one of the top leaders in a very big church, we said at this time where we are, we can never talk about whether you need a system or not. It might be, the discussion must be about a service provider. Do we need Disciplesoft or not as a company? But what do you think debate a system? With them, that was the discussion. Now it's important for us to understand that if we are going to excel at the issue of follow-up, we need to be organized. We need to be very organized. We must understand what happens. Remember, when you are talking about the army, I always talk about the influence of the American armies, the Navy SEALs and so forth. Those people are very, 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 particular about whatever they're going to do. They know kuti ndiani achamira pakona apo. Anenge akabata futi akatarisa kupi. Figure things out in the field. Isusu edu armies inenge ichitombojema futi yacho haitozikonzi inorira yakatarisa kupi. Grenade rinotoputikira makumbo enyu munhu achitadza kuri kandi. You understand that? But the difference is that these guys, they take their things seriously. And let me tell you a secret. Kana usati wasvika pastage yekunzi unonetsa, hausati wa excellent. Vanhu vari excellent vanonetsa. They are particular about how they want their things to be done. Vanoti no. Iri kadhi handizvo zvatingafanira kuisa apa chinjai T uyu. Unochinjiswa kadhi rese T. Asina kuita zvakanaka. Those are the signs of excellence. And our God is an excellent God. That's why even when he's talking about the building of the ark, he gives to the last dimension. The height, the length, the width, the material. He gives everything. The priestly garments. He gives them to the last dimension. You say to yourself, what is the matter? Because jira ngatingoise green, tongoisa adaro mwari. Zvinhu zvinongonzi ngatingosanganisa is you are knowing that you are now in the zone of mediocrity. Be very worried when you deal with the person. Not, don't worry about the details. The details is what matters. The details is what matters. It's what's the difference between your death and your life at an operating table. Do you know how small your veins are in your head? Anonzi neurosurgeon yawe akaita zvekugesa zvimwe zvatinoita so. Munhu amuke. Little veins, very small as they are. Hakuna inonzi haina basa ngatingo. Let's just cut this one. I think. They can live like that. I think I was talking to a friend who was saying some of these guys, right? And oh yeah, ushita iskurira. Yakurira. Shema bauda yasiyana. So I'm not going to tell you Germany why you paying about kadiki, but there's a reason why it's there. That's the tricky of excellence. Excellence is not in big things. Forget it. Excellence is in small things. And if we are going to ensure that we get to do things correctly, we need to ensure that we do things right. Follow up. Let's look at the other, the follow up. We need to have a follow up team. Phone calls, they are in trouble because when things have been messed up the stream, they are the ones who get to deal with an angry visitor. Unofonera munhu akatoita fed up kuti akangonzwa kuti harvest house akutoti network hello yobva yadzima yatopa voicemail. Handisi kukunzwai. It's because a person is already, really fed up. Do we have a follow-up team? Who are these people that we know they are actually going to do the follow-up? We have always said, and that's now where the question was, how do we position these people? Look, if you're going to have a church, even a 10-member service, you need to have a hospitality department. A person can play dual responsibilities. Are we together? You can be a greeter and go to the visitors lounge. Anditi, you can be an usher and go to the visitors lounge. But when the church is growing, it's important to separate these duties. so that a lot of people can serve. You want to have a person who is going to say to this week, I'm in the Vistas Lounge and I'm handling these individuals. So it becomes very important. So you need to have a team. Do we have a team that we know? Put in door team maybe follow up. Number 2, are they trained at making my phone calls, house visits, my connections, my token gifts and so forth? Are they trained to do these things? What is our follow-up protocol like? Because there has to be a protocol. Vamwe ma follow-up persons edu tinongovati follow-up kuti zviri kunzi chiko ko nobody knows. It's a risk, a big risk. Yatinoita yekuti munosiya munhu ari maoko emunhu hamuzoti ari kunzi chi. We need to be very careful around. So we need to train around these things. How do you do a house visit? We were talking about an example when we were in Blawai. Kuti unoenda kusizinda kuenda noita follow up a person. Matuma munhu asi kuziva atoriwo munhu atori neproblem osvikaona pane nzimbe dzaridzi. Otanga ngotaura zvinhu zviri suggestive zvokuti madira ndoita nzimbe ingedze panapa dzinenge kuzosvika avhisira wakoti egai tungowata imhera waiti munhu wamwari aenda. How long do you stay when you are doing a house visit? What nature of conversations do you have with the person? You want to ensure that people are properly trained to do my visits. If you are doing follow-up, it's not random. Not everyone can follow up. Let's all agree on that, saints. Not everyone can follow up or should be given the responsibility to follow up. When we talk about my issues, token gifts, it's called token because it's not about the price. It's an option. We always tell saints that when you are training that if you have an opportunity to give a gift, go ahead and do that. It's not about the size and how expensive. It's the sentimental value. People love receiving things. Anditi pampacho yakatita kuti muchinje pekuvhotera. T-shirt. Kungopiwa t-shirt otori awa ndo vanhu chaiyo chaiyo. It's a gift. And then DiscipleSoft also helps ensure that there is proper. That's why we're talking about the 7-week Vista follow-up calendar. The 49 days can be handled. Do you have a system if it's not DiscipleSoft? That reminds you. Remember, Vanveda was full-time, Pastor Chiket. Lots of our ministers that are here, how many of us are full-time in ministry? Can I see by the hand? 2, 3. The rest of us, we are still working. 4. But kuenda kwenye kubasa akuti kuti mudzikise standard basa la Mwari. Ndofunga mafara stereki pamaramba maoko ari pasi. God is calling you to act and serve as if you're full-time. Satan are part-timers. I always say this, a part-time church can never defeat a full-time devil. Because when the devil is engaging, he actually puts his best foot forward. So that's why tools are important. A tool will remind you. How many times have you said, Ish, dakangano? Genuinely so. You're supposed to call somebody, Kangano. Systems helps you to ensure that you are reminded of what you are supposed to do. And then let's look at number 6, automated communication. That's the one that I was just talking about here. That's another phase as well. So you are assessing yourself and saying out of 5, if you are taking a lot of things wrong, let's be honest and say how much marks are you giving yourself? And then let's look at automated communication. Like I said, most of us are not full-time, but we still need to do follow-up. And the reason why I was saying that most of us, we don't become accountable, we become irritated when a person asks you why something has not been done. It's because we believe that, we cannot be held accountable in church. Saints, can I say this? And I need you to grab it very, very seriously. If we don't treat God's work 10 times more excellently than what we do our carnal things, we have not started serving God. There are things that we understand that we do at work. Most of us, we go to work. I remember talking to a certain guy who was saying, my entrepreneurs are because some of them have never worked. You know how to kumboenda pa basa chaipo chaipo. Usati watanga rako business. kwakanaka because kunokupa culture nesensibility yekuva professional. I'm not taking anything away from a person who just wakes up and say, I'm going to do my own things. But dzimwe nguva ndo panobva kahumusiyamwa ipapa. Are we together? Ndo panobva kahumusiyamwa ipapa kuti hakuna kambokuchallenge akuti pabasa panosvika na 8 o'clock. Saka even ukaita appointment, inogona kunzi ndikusvika manje. Appointment ya 8 inozoitwa na 9:30. And the person, when they get there, they are not feeling bad. They are not apologizing. Can I apology? It is just, at service. And the person goes and pray to Mwari, madimona akabata business rangu. Chakabata business is lack of excellence. Now, the problem in church is that we don't create that environment. Excellence and accountability. So we need to ensure that the systems helps us to ensure that we become very excellent and accountable. Do we have my tools? Do we have my tools? Software. It doesn't have to be DiscipleSoft. I'm repeating this again. It doesn't have to be DiscipleSoft. It can be church windows. It could be whatever system that you have there. It can even be a spreadsheet. Let's start at a spreadsheet. Unfortunately, when we go spreadsheet, I'm going to automate some communication like my welcoming SMSs, my task reminders, my service reminders, my invitations, and so forth. And those calendars. So my tools, we need to have a system that works in a church. Mfundisi. Sorry, Mama. Ndimfundisani? Chitana. Mfundisi Chitanga. Dopa mama chivunza paya. Kuti, can I operate the system without technology? I was saying you would probably try and do it well in the first 2 months. But it becomes spaghetti. It becomes messed up. You can't know what's happening. You become very confused with the whole thing. Ukaona vanhu uchirugona kuvaverenga by names. It means that the administration is not yet complex. But there's a time when it becomes so complex that 500 kuvaverenga by names. But if you're good, you can be able to get to do that. And we always encourage that you have to do that. So the automation is a very important power. Number one, it helps you to ensure that there's continuity. I always give this very simple example. I was talking to Senior Rev Tuturu here. Most of our people, uchingopedza kumutrain anobva atorwa nebasa oitwa kubulawayo. Wawanga wakatemba wacho endi anotorwa. Are we together? So if you want to keep continuity, you are building a competence around the system, not around individuals. Are we together? I'll give you a simple example. Have you ever experienced a service yekuti kana uri mufundisi pakabuda mumwe mutende aenda somewhere wakanyatsonzwa with the hit kuti hai papa zvina kumira musha munhu wangu aenda. It's because those people are important, but you want to take advantage of their presence to ensure that you multiply the same of that person. Tite 10 wakadaro. If we don't do that, we have a problem. Yekuti, the day the person is not available, you actually feel the hit. So it's my systems are not bad. A simple joke that I always give is a very practical and true joke that once happened. I think Brenda would remember that when we went to a certain place in case that kunonzi kujozini kuzasi kuborder neMozambique. Kunemwe a church leader akataura kuti marecords ese church hatisisina. Ko marecords akaenda kubvunza kuti pane mumwe mudhikoni akangogumbuka akati ndakuenda necounter book rangu. Kuna minister akagumbuka akati inzva muri kuita padapa handisi kuzvifarira. Ko chidzosa yakabhuku rechechi kanzi harisi rechechi nderangu. Don't forget kuti ndindakaritenga nemari yangu, ndakaita offering, it was my money. So I can keep it. Makutotanga panyowani. Not in 2025. You know, the way that we do record keeping, the way that we do record keeping, dai takanga tiriko mazuva eBible chaicha, dai zvinoti tine kana one scripture. Mamwe ese tisingazoti chichi chakaitika kwaari. We are terrible at record keeping. Kuenda pasangano kuti 5 years ago, who are the people that were in this church? My records, my finances 5 years ago, nobody will tell you. Because pane bhuku ratisaone mama handwriting acho ameno akanga achinyora ipapapa, and you understand that. If you are a serious church system, that's why you see the difference between us as a church and the corporate world. The corporate does not play when it comes to records. Kana wachienda ku board meeting like this, auye uchite thumbs up my figures. Ugopinda boardroom CBZ oti plus or minus somewhere there, give or take. Unaenda kumba. But in church it's very, very common. Kuti munhu anogona kuti no, roughly achitaura zvekunyeba futi. We had a church where the pastors were reporting wrong figures to the apostle. The CFSA that I'm talking about. They actually had a target of a certain number. Then they actually are pushing cell group systems so vigorously. Then the secretary general of the church was told about 600 and something cell groups. The system yazo we are not disciple soft. Zakati say. Nakubuda. Nemama number 77. Chitipa must 77 now when you're up as up. Abude must 77. They are on paper. So those are the things that are a problem in church when it comes to Sagana teacher issue 7 phases. This is the 6th phase. You want to ensure that the system and the technology helps you to follow up manually. You can go as far as you can. I'm not saying that you cannot do things manually. You can. But if you want to go all the way, for those that wants to do excellently, they will definitely deal with the tools. That's why when you go to the so-called white churches, if you go to the so-called white churches, they operate on systems. Then the last one is monitoring and evaluation. Follow-up here, aigone kuita zvakanaka kana pasina follow-up. Kana pasina monitoring the evaluation. Zvatakupai vanhu, as pastors, do you follow up to say, ndakakupa vanhu 10. Where are the 10 people? Dzimwe nguva tinopedzisira nekungopa kuti enda unoita follow-up. And if a person knows that you are just giving them a responsibility without follow-up, they can decide not to do it or to do it. But if I am given a responsibility, I would not play. I will come and do the work. So monitoring and evaluation is very important. The responsible team, the pastoral team, and departmental leaders. The departmental leaders must be obsessed with asking people, I gave you these visitors, I gave you these new believers, where are they, what's happening with them? If you don't ask those questions, people can afford. Do you know what we need to make up my stories? I think I'm church, but to know visit here, Antizo. You go to Munanota or as in Zipo, as Ruzia, Quasna Square, Munanota or Nizab. Ko we are got Chebutu. Apo. Ko no, we are got Aniaka church. Ko Foniaka Esquita, and 10 reasons why the visitors know yes. But if there is a culture of asking a person who knows the person, last time, let me go and work. So you can't assign as a pastor and then you fold your hands and think they're going to do their job. It will not happen. So you need to, and remember, saints, the reason why it's in obsession here, these things, is because if I'm not obsessed about visitors and new souls, I must not talk about the growth because the growth comes from that. This is where the growth, if we can talk about everything and anything, but let's talk about the people that have come into our services every Sunday. So we have to ensure that there is proper quality engagement that's going to happen there. Follow-up actions are being looked at. Monthly reporting must be done on the visitors so that we can even get to look at graphical reports. I note that some churches, they actually report on WhatsApp. Andidi, we're having a workshop with another church. They do reporting on WhatsApp. Do you know what the problem is, Pastor Chiketa, on WhatsApp? The problem in WhatsApp, after 6 months, you can't compare. Unless if you take it from the WhatsApp group and put it on a spreadsheet. But we're talking about a great Excel spreadsheet, skills, and to go build my reports and everything. Why do we take these figures every Sunday? Reverend, see the Rev. The name is running away from me again. Taruona. Taonekwa. Why should I forget a simple name like Taonekwa? Senior Rev Taonekwa. Why do you think we collect statistics every Sunday?
Firstly, for monitoring. Secondly, we need to check ourselves. Are we moving forward or we are not moving forward? This will help us in terms of evaluation progress check. Because it will end up like we are having statistics. People don't love to be statistics. We have to engage. We have also to connect. Yeah.
We collect statistics because we want to monitor progress. And you want to have a system of monitoring that could say, last year in January or last year in March, at this time, how many visitors were we getting? It helps you to build my trends. No, we usually, even event planning, when we are great at these things, because when do you have the most people? Because when you are taking statistics correctly, you start building my trends. We have less people in church during this time. We've got more people and all that stuff. So it's important. So have the time on our groups, the people who generate this information, run it for compliance purposes. And they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. That's why it's easy for them to lie. And not do it on time. When I not remind was several times. I'm starting to my statistics. Data report not only online. Online, but my statistics are scooped. Right. So monitoring and evaluation is very important. Those are the different. So we are saying that if you don't have these 7 phases, these 7 areas, your follow-up will be seriously challenged. Are we together? It's seriously challenged. Pastor Chiket, vaenda kupi mfundisi. Vakusira ema marks. How much did we get out of 35? We are adding. Amen. Sleep down. Yeah, Rev vakutaurira pasi mukanzwa zvida zvinoti hazvinaumira musha. Right. Hanzi, it's less than 50%. You're supposed to score 35. Who has got their score? Who wants to share with us their score? Out of 35. Who wants to generously tell us how much they've scored? Zvinokana zvidayo pana Pastor Chiket. Pamutu munyoro. Yes, how much did you get, Elder Sita? 10. Do you see this? And look, it's not easy what you're talking about. Elder Sita is saying they got 10. And Bindura is one of those, and she's committed and dedicated. But it's not easy. These are the ingredients. I'll give you a simple example. Cake, kuyango kata shungudza kaita sei kuti ute Black Forest. Kana ukatadza kuisa my ingredients are right. Chinopesera chiri chimodu. Are we together? Enge unotodya. Asa hausudya Black Forest. Uri kudya chimodu. Saka usanyebere vanhu kuti ndiri kudya Black Forest. 10.5. Pastor Chiketa wati 10.5. And I think that's an honest assessment. Now, this is the reason why our follow-up is. So you see, when you are monitoring the ingredients, it will show you what you're going to come up with. Pakanzi is a half teaspoon of sugar. It's a half teaspoon of sugar. Because all my ingredients are shown. We have given you what makes a very potent follow-up system. Now, as we close our session today, I want us to look at the follow-up actions that we should master. We have 5 follow-up actions that we must master. Follow-up, we can look at it as a science. We can look at it as an art as well. What do we mean by a science and an art? The art is from the position yekuti you are led in your heart by the Spirit of God. The science is a process that we already have put together. First week tunoita zvakati nezvakati. Second week tunoita zvakati nezvakati. Kana muchita your calendar, when we do the training that we are going to engage on, you do a training yekuti munoita a 7-week follow-up calendar for 7 weeks. Anditi, ati guess zvachaita 7 weeks. I'll give you a simple example. First 24 hours, For example, a visitor must receive a text message that says, thank you so much for coming to us. The next day, they will receive a text that comes from the person who has been given the mandate to follow them up. Hi, my name is William. I have been given the mandate by my pastor to actually avail myself, to engage with you, not to follow up on you, obviously. But my name is William and I've been given the honor and the privilege of serving you. So if you need anything, please, this is my number. That's the second contact. I'm going to call you on Wednesday. Third contact is the phone call on a Wednesday. Magafamba zvakanaka here, no, we had a good time. Did you enjoy your service and yourself with us and so forth? Then number 4, a reminder on a Saturday. Do you see that our contact are 4 times, but it doesn't look like it's too much? We are not using one method of engagement. So that's a system, that's a science. Okay. That's a science. So it's important. It's important that we then understand that science. A process. Why is a process important? A process yakanaka kuti inotibatsira kuti ite consistency. Kana mumwe asipo, somebody can take over and people can be sure of what is happening. Kune vanhu ma expected something, Reverend Taone. They will be great at something, but problem ndekuti ndiye ganozviziva. Saka kana uchiziva uri one apana system and that competence is not helpful to anyone. Zvatinoziva ngazvipinde musystem so that we know kuti even if I'm not around, 10 more people can do the same work that I'm doing. That's called a church on the move. We are continuous. Azvioneka kuti ninga hapo nasi. Now, that's the importance of the follow-up as a science. There's a process. We understand and we deliberate on that. Is it not what kana mucha training? We run kuti, why should we call a person in 24 hours? Kana mukawirana ngatiregere kufollow in 24 hours. We run but let's be a reason behind that. Uswa tiri kuno kuchipinge kune varimi vakawandisa. Saka zvekuharare nekuno kwazvina kufanana. You are giving your reasons. But it's a predictable, predetermined, auditable process. Chinhu chiri auditable chinogona kucorrectika. Chinhu chisina process haugona kuchicorrect. That's why you find kuti dzimwe nguva unosvika kuti vanhu vanenge vari excellent, unosvika woti vakomana chechi yaye ukadzokera next week unosvika ndo kwandakaenda last week. Zvachinja. Right. Now, we are obviously led by the Holy Spirit. That's the art science of things. Tine process yatinayo, but one time the Spirit will tell you, you can't wait for 72 hours. Call this person now. That's the art. It's the Spirit of God leading you. Tinowanza a visitor, first visit yedu in the 3rd week, but this time around we can't wait for the 3rd week. The Spirit is leading me to say, Munarada agent help. That is the art side of things. So let's have, and we can't all have the vision of understanding the Spirit and this movement. That process. Are we together? We can't all be inspired or be enlightened. If we all become inspired, it's a problem. That's why we can't all be visionaries. Kune one no cast a vision. To support that. So it's very important that we get to be able to do that. I want us to look at 5 actions that we must master. Number 1, we need to master my phone calls. A lot of people think my phone calls are cheaper. Quantity now my phone. To know phone every day. To them put it a role play panap. Dambo starts a one person and no volunteer phone. Into a visitor. You won't phone it. I did it. Look, we want to establish the 4, the 3 W's and 1 H. For us to be able to do great phone calls, whoever is behind the phone should understand, why am I making this call? Are we together? Why am I making this call? And remember, my calls vary depending with the stage of visitor you need to achieve. First time call, second time call. Number 2, you want to understand when I'm supposed to make that call. Number 3, who is supposed to make that call, and then how are we supposed to do this call? So I wanted to address these 2 things. The call must be made. The window period for excellent calls must be made within 72 hours. And you must be directed by the Vista card and the notes that were taken in the Vistas Lounge. Now, do you understand the importance of Vistas Lounge? Kana takataura tiri Vistas Lounge, and I established that I was talking to a student. I'm preparing for an exam. Kana ndakumfonera, it would be prudent if I'm building a relationship naye kuti dimension about the exam. How are the exam preparations going? Are connected. A person who understands why a phone call is supposed to be made. That's why you find accurate data collection becomes very important. But more importantly, we want people to be trained on how to make these calls. The need basis is from the card, our understanding from the Vistas Lounge. And then we need to have what you call a standard script. A script must be a minimum guiding principle in terms of what needs to be addressed in a call. I know that most of us, how many of us have worked with scripts in our services to make calls? Do you work with scripts? We don't. And as the Spirit leads, right, it's a good thing. But some of us might not be inspired on the day that you are making a phone call. Are we together? Now, having a standard script is when you are making sure that a person has to address it really critically in a call. The first thing probably in a script, I'm giving a suggestion, an example. Introduce yourself. Good afternoon, my name is Willem. I'm calling you from Harvest House International. Do you have a moment? It's different from, hello, good afternoon, right? Who am I talking to? Because the person wants to know who they're talking to. Do you understand that? And unfortunately, we actually give that risk. We give the people the responsibility to make these phone calls. A phone call is very tricky. It's different from a physical encounter. A physical engagement is going to none because funny body language. A person who's on the other side can quickly and easily judge you unfairly and drop the call. So the moment you pick up the call, it's no longer about you. You are now representing Bishop Tuturu. So what you say and don't say is going to Bishop Anona the lead. Anona the badge. Harvest House. That's why training on standard scripts is very important and extensive role play. Hey, apanonetsa up. Kunzite role play kunzi iwe chimbogara apa umbofona. Ini ndini vista ndiri kuno ndakunza kuti unoti kudi. Tinofunga takuitiswa nditi. Chichinonetsa pa phone call. Chingondipa airtime chete imimi ndite phone. Who wants to volunteer and make a call? How do we make our calls? If you don't volunteer, I might be led by the Spirit to point at you. Who wants to volunteer so that we can quickly, unfortunately, we are running out of time, seriously. Who wants to volunteer to make a call to anyone, to me? A person is come to your church, and then, yes, Pastor Chiketa, you're going to help us. She's going to make a call. Please give her a mic. And remember, when you are going to do your practice, the role play, you are supposed to be taught about different types of visitors. Kunema visitors are very we need to understand how to deal with the different types of visitors. Kunema visitors are rude. Kunema visitors are talkative. Even do I phone I see airtime yako is rocket. When airtime yako change nambari yako because it's chatterbox. I don't talk that conversation. You have got different types of Kunema visitors are trying to complain about some certain things. And you don't know how to address it. So please call me.
It's call number 1.
Call number 1, yes. Let's learn from this. She's calling me. Hello. Right.
Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Cause why makadi yenyu?
Tiripo makadi yenyu.
Tiripo ndikutaura wana mkoma William.
Yes, ndio arutaura. Mucharo nani?
Mugutaura na Maichketa.
Okay. Maichketa ndio kupa.
Mugutaura na Maichketa from Harvest House International Church.
Okay.
I'm calling on behalf of Bishop CS Tuturu.
Okay.
Tinovimba kuti
Okay, yes.
takanga tiri sese musi wesvondo.
Oh, yes. I do remember. I do remember very well.
We were very honored kuti makava nesu tinokutendai zvakare.
Okay. Imi ndime api zviya imi anchachatsa kuremember. Ndime api wacho. You get this type of interjections. Yes.
Ndine Maichketa pamabhiskits aya ndindaisevha.
Oh, yes, I remember. Maichketa, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the baskets. I really enjoyed that.
We are so excited kuti makanga munesu musi weSunday.
Makaroorwa here naye Maichketa.
I'm stuck.
It's a visit. Visitor uipe script.
Yes, true.
Taura zvainoda. Sorry to interject you, my for this. That's why we're saying that sometimes you want to be intentional when you're pairing people. Because if there's going to be a sweet voice on the other side, kuna amwe bachelor watofunga kuti pamwe ndaita sei.
Zvaita.
You understand that? But we are not saying that a female cannot follow a male, but it's always wisdom
Oh, yes.
to ensure that you get to do that. Yes, you go ahead, ma'am. Yes. You want to start?
Repeat the question.
Oh, sorry. That I've never without you. Makaroorwa here zviya.
Hongu baba Chiketa ndo wanga ari MC musi wesvondo paya.
Okay. Okay. It is really busy. Most of the photos are going. As was the photo about us about visitors. No, thank you so much for this. Thank you. I think let's stop it there.
Okay.
Let's clap it. So we, unfortunately, because of time, we could have done more on the role plays, but we want to show you that it's not easy to make a phone call. Yeah, you need to be that's why you find good from the assignment of the roles. You want to know who are you giving a responsibility to follow up on who. Because when you go to uri visitors lounge, ningi, uyu ndofunga nikampa ningi, I think it's not gonna go kuiran. You already know about those things. You are very intentional about that. So it's very important. So you also need extensive role plays. It doesn't just automatically happen that you become great at making phone calls, especially professional calls. Your own call, you can make it and mumble and all that stuff. But when you're talking about a very serious call, like a follow-up, that you are saying Harvest House, you need to ensure that you get. So when we are going to, at some point, to say, do a role play, musafungo to murguitiswa. Bora charichari wana no exercise. Aungoti ndine given God talent gasanga ne stadium tinotamba. People practice. Worshippers angari panapa. They were singing beautifully. They must have practiced. You practice. You do role plays. You don't just pitch up and say, no, it's very easy. So it's very important. Then number two, you need to master my house visits. Saka, my phone calls, we need to be great at phone calls. You need to be great at phone calls. She was able to avert my challenges because my phone calls, my phone calls. But we need to know how to deal with all these different circumstances and situations. My house visits, I just gave an example the other time as well. You need to have a qualifier. When you're doing my house visits, you need to know why are you doing a house visit, when are you supposed to do it, who should do it, and how it should be done. You need to ensure that you're going to get to master that. You need to have my qualifiers, because it's not everybody who comes to your church that you must visit. It's not everybody who comes to your church who you should visit. There's no need for you to visit them. Otherwise, tingapere hiri. Dzebhutsu tichifambira vanhu vatisina kutumwa kwavari. At some point, you want to know when to visit. I think I was having a workshop sometime in Bulawayo. One pastor said, and I said, how effective is that? That's a bit uncomfortable to me. Because I'm bed and one room. Already. Do you understand that it might not be comfortable enough? You want to know when to visit. At what point do you want to visit a person? Remember, as a church as well, to fast stretch in terms of my resources, people resources. So if I'm given so many people that I should visit, and at some point I'm visiting people that I should not be visiting, I become frustrated and burnt out. So let's put a priority on the people that we should. So today, a qualifier, usually our encouragement is, if you have got many visitors, you obviously give my repeat visitors, but it's different from people that have got less visitors. But it's our hope that when you're talking about church growth, we should be inundated with visitors every Sunday. So tinema repeat visits, tinema visible needs that you see in a person, that this person needs a visit. And tinema different types of my visits. Tinema not my porch visit, for example, and then or actually the house visit, a home visit. A porch visit is when you are in the area and you don't make an appointment. Tazwana address ukuthi mina nogara muchipadzi ushu kana nogara Glenview area 8 ndinotongopfuura nepamaraini pake, because isusu demographic also information helps us to assign people. Saka ndoza kuti ndogara pa 1650 visa yedu inogara pa 1680 ndongopfuura nepagate ndongoti anda ndichingopfuura ndikuone mdikani kuti sei kunoko. No, I'm going. You don't even get into the house. It's a part of a visit. Remember what you're doing, you're building a relationship, a familiarity, so that it becomes easier for a person to gravitate towards us. Like I told you, Jataro na Pastor Chiketa in the morning as we were coming here, she said the biggest number of our people are backsliders. So autagone kunyaya kumparidza nezvaya doctrine. My scriptures are tomaziya. Charutsvaga, it's a family where she feels needed and involved and so forth. And what do we mean by choreography? You must know who is going to say what. Practice a home visit. Akuneta a home visit munosvika motarisana. Makukondana kuti iwe utaure. Know who's going to say what when you get there. Imi mai kandasvika ndimushatanga chorus. Imova manamata iwo share izwi. Tatoziya zvatiri kufanira unoita. 5 minutes ufana kuti apedza nyaya yedu yatafambira. Kana maakuona akuda kubuda muscript munongomutsika obvutsa kuti asawira hazvo zvatafambira izvi. Venzimbe vaya. Right. So you practice. Don't. My home visits are not very simple. People think my home visits they are not simple at all. Know the times as well to visit. I think Senior Rev Tuturu just mentioned here. Know when to visit. Usaende nguva wrestling. Because what my area want to have wrestling sterek. Nobody will welcome you. As a matter of fact, vanotokuvenga. Kuti time yavo yayebhora. Haasi kuziva kuti toda kuona Real Madrid ne Barcelona here. Know when to visit. What is the convenient time? Kana vari vanhu vanoshanda, you understand that this couple is working. What time do I go there? How long do I stay? And you can also even include people love gifts. And I think, unfortunately, the church, sometimes we feel that we become poorer by giving. Nobody has ever become poorer by giving. Somebody once said, we don't give because we have because we give. So, get it a culture. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be something very, big. Unfortunately, I wanted us to do it like what we did with the phone call. Timbo, not to say my house visits, but I'm looking at our time. Really, we are behind the schedule, so we're going to skip that one. But we wanted to actually have a good example. Tomboita examples etuvana tumwe tunenge anozati kuna natazana kudzimbako. Wosvika kuda kutanga kutsiura vane vanhu nekuti vanamatira kuti I bind you in the name of Jesus. Right. You want to ensure that you understand how to pastors and leaders. Don't take these things for granted. They are very important. When you assign our people to go there, we must know that they are representing the church well. Time management, what to say, what not to say, and all those things. So we need to master my house visits. Then my token gifts that I just spoke about, at some point you might have, I know that you have my departments, compassionate departments. Compassion, yes. At some point you want to ensure that you according to people's needs, You address people's needs. Can you imagine one day when you're visiting a person that you understood during their visit that they've got a particular need somewhere, and then you bring them a gift that is going to address their need? That person will know that it's God answering their prayers. So it's very important that we look at those issues as part of visiting, people. I think the Americans have this culture that whenever they have neighbors coming, they actually welcome them by a gift. Just something little. It doesn't have to be big, like I said. So there must be qualifiers, obviously. You don't probably give, everyone a gift, or you don't give a gift about anything. You must look at affordable but thoughtful as well. That actually then helps a person to enjoy that particular gift. Then number 4, this is very important. My connections. When you are doing a follow-up, you need to be great at making connections. That's why you need to be an attentive listener. Are we together? Those are my visitors lounge or even my phone calls, because my connections are on different levels. We do them when we do our first visits, we do them on the visitors lounge, you do it on a phone call, you are able to take and notice some certain things. Then when you are doing my connections as a follow-up person, I'll give you a simple example. You are talking to a student from University of Zimbabwe. Sarah, what's happened? What are you doing in life? No, I'm at University of Zimbabwe. Wow. Probably I'm at university. Wow, which university? I'm at University of Zimbabwe. Wow, okay, I've got a brother who's in church who's at University of Zimbabwe. You are already ensuring that you're going to connect this person with a person at University of Zimbabwe. Because you probably have somebody in the university at Rimom Church. Kanakut, Anoti, I'm an accountant. And it, okay, you establish that this person is an accountant. No, look, you know what? In our church, Tina, a senior partner, KPMG, I would love to introduce you to that person. If you come next week Sunday, I'll introduce you to that. Do you see what's happening here? I'm creating a relationship in a community for this person. And I'm giving them a reason to come back next week. Because they're already expecting to I'm connected to the other person with KPMG. The church is one of the most powerful economies that remains very poor because people don't utilize our connections. Muno tinema accountants, tinema engineers. And if I may not humility, into munatu kana kashika muno ma atimboze uti muri engineer. Ichaye utizi uti muri engineer. Kana tikaita omwana arikuita engineer itoza kuti enda munotaura na ningi ndiye arikuita engineering. It's part of connecting because you're building a community. People want to be in a holistic environment that is not only going to speak to their spiritual life. There is also an economic and social part that you need to connect. So good follow-up must be attentive to these things. Connect people. Oh, I'm a widow. Oh, okay. No, that's right. You know what? I'm going to connect you. There's a widow that you know in church that you're going to connect them with. I'm a single parent. You find out that they're a single parent. You connect them to a person who's going to make them feel at home and welcome. Those things are very important when you're making a phone call. It's not an issue of just going through the motions. Be observant and be intentional about connecting people. And once you do that, people stick. People will stay because they would actually find a community of believers that are going to help them. Geographic connections, we can do demographic connections, unogara ku section yakati, kune munhu anogara ikoko and so forth. I will introduce you to that person. Kana atora around, don't wait. They will actually, vamwe vachito driver. Amai ngiri kumsasiye ndikanoita anogara kwamunobva. Kana vakuuya kuchechi vanotouya naye. And then the last part, the last one, it must service link ups. Service link ups. My service link ups edu, the moment you have a visitor and we know where they are staying, the next thing that we want to do is to ensure that we connect them. Nema Sunday services edu. We connect them nema cell groups. Tinova connect nema week services. Tinova connect nema special events. That's why we always think that we need to thrive with my cell groups. Can I see my cell group leaders? Can I see my cell group leaders? Can I see cell group leaders? Cell group leaders. Thank you. You people are very, very important in the growth and stability of the church. I used to jokingly say to a person, you can't apply to become a pastor when you have not been a cell group leader. Prove yourself in a cell group that you can be a good pastor. That's where you are tested, you are tried and everything else. Follow up is effective. We recommend it to be done through a cell group. Because cell group ndokwatiri kuti kana tida kuti service ikure inofana kukudzwa through a cell group, not in a main service. So if your cell group is not growing, the church is not growing. Are we together? Let me repeat this. If your cell group is not growing, the church is not growing. And the responsibility of the church is to give you the feeder. That's why kana ma visitors akauya tinokupai ma visitors kuti this visitor inogara in your section, follow up on them. Saka ma phone call atacharai anetwa from the person representing a cell group. My home visit atacharai, because remember, if we don't do that, can you imagine urukul Glenview urukunzita follow up na Warren Park uchada fuel uchada time. A visit ye physical should be a walking distance. I can walk, I don't need a budget for that. And go and see the individual that I am supposed to talk to. Then, how do you link up NEMA services? It's really very simple. I'll give you a very simple example. Kana uchitaura ne visitor, ngatiti home visit, kana a phone call. Look, I'm going to church tomorrow, and I'm going to leave a bit earlier. Would you mind if I pass through and change the test? That's number one. Number two, don't worry, I'm going to, do you want me to keep a space for you? Don't worry, I'm going ahead. I will keep a chair for you. You are building anticipation in a visitor. It's very awkward. It's also a first-time visitor are comfortable in your church. It's very difficult. Because that's not you. You don't understand what this is all about. Maybe I don't know, but you are simply saying that it's uncomfortable. It's an environment that you don't understand. So the way you are uncomfortable in those environments, a person who's coming to you for the first time will be uncomfortable. It's our responsibility to make them comfortable. And we also have extensive role plays that you need to do there and standard script that we must be able to do that. As I close our engagement this wonderful afternoon, I want you to understand that if we don't have a massive, great follow-up system, wakafanana nemunhu ari kuda kuzadza can yakaboka nemvura. Are we together? Preaching, evangelizing. As a matter of fact, we used to tell people to fix the bucket first. Before you even go to preach, we can go and preach, yes, and ensure that people receive Christ and still go to other churches, it's fine. But we were not sent to make converts of nations. We were sent to make disciples of nations. And we cannot make a disciple if you are losing the people. They must be part of the system. So, running evangelism programs with a poor follow-up system, it's a waste of time and money. Are we together, saints? If we don't have a proper follow-up system, we are wasting our time and money. Asking members to invite my visitors. One of the other most effective processes that we did last year is to have my visitor Sundays, where you find that you just have a very simple, executed visitor Sunday or visitor service, where you are going to encourage people to invite a visitor each. Like we said, and I always say this, if your service in a 21, if a person commit themselves to bring one soul to Christ in 12 months, but they can 12, January, February, March, April, May, one soul, in a 52 weeks, and one of the things that's important then is to promote visitor services. Asking members to invite people to come to the church. Like I was saying, HQ had 400 and something people coming to their service. Then my question was, and will always be, how many of those people stayed behind? Because really, it's really not serving the purpose. The reason why the numbers came, the 110 that came to Gweru, the service, my question will be, how many of them are still in your system? If they are like a desert flash flood, you go to desert 2 minutes, but 2 minutes, we are not doing the work. So we need to ensure that we do things. We can't even pray for visitors. Let's stop praying for them because when they come and we have prayed for them, we must make sure that we follow up on them. And we must stop believing for the end time harvest. Because when you pray for the end time harvest, the visitor who is going to walk into your service tomorrow is what you've been praying for. That's the end time harvest. Now, if you can't take care of that one visitor, we don't know what you're praying for. We always pray for the growth. Then God brings the material for growth. And when he does that, then we actually then get to ignore that. The bottom or the basis of our engagement have always been the tools. That saints, I'm not going to go into the features of DiscipleSoft. We don't have the time for that. But I just wanted you to know that if we are serious about follow up on our visitors, we're going to need systems. And at some point, systems actually cause for sacrifices financially. And I will not talk about the issue of the financial aspect in this engagement because we are people that are very, very flexible. The people that we've worked with, they will tell you that money is not an object. We don't want money to become an object in as far as implementation and excellent management of our churches is concerned. So today, a number of systems, my apps are actually used in the rural areas. As far as West Africa, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, my rural places are as west rural as our rural areas here in Zimbabwe. But their people are able to run the administration effectively. So after this, we're going to have an engagement through Bishop. I've actually spoken to Bishop. We will discuss about a masterclass that you're supposed to have, but I've already spoken to Bishop and in other words, we are going to have further training online, but we're going to have an engagement at Bishop together, NEMA Hub leaders, to see how we're going to be able to get to run this. May the good Lord bless you. It was a blessing to be amongst you this wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much, Bishop, for the time. God bless you.
Wow. Mangorova maoko makagara pasi. Ingawani, standing ovation, please. Now let's give our facilitator a pam-pam. Wow, amazing.